If you're like most people, you visit your local pharmacy once or twice a week. Maybe you need eye drops, cough syrup, or ointment for a rash. It's common for us to leave home and pay cash for health remedies that make us feel better. But it wasn't always like this. For centuries, when someone was sick, whether it was a farmhand or family member, they went to the lady of the house for a remedy. And it was unthinkable that they should pay for it.
We often think of it as an alternative, but it wasn't. This was the norm. And what it was women took care of everything. So you'd be at home, and in the kitchen, the woman of the house, who might be a wife or a sister or an aunt, would be making everything, maybe with some kitchen help, maybe not, right there.
That's Bloom Gevirtz, author of The Apothecaries' Wife, The Hidden History of Medicine and How It Became a Commodity. Before the 1700s, women kept large gardens and grew everything the family needed for both food and medicinal purposes. Sage, for example, was good for seasoning stuffing, but it also had anti-inflammatory properties. Other plants, such as foxglove, had strictly medicinal qualities. Women steeped its leaves for tea to treat cardiac issues. Today, the prescription drug called digitalis is made from the dried leaves of the foxglove plant.
So she would be cooking whatever was necessary for the day or the week, and she would be preparing medications either to keep in stock for common stuff like burn salve, because burns are pretty common when you work in a kitchen with an open fireplace. And she would also be on hand to make up anything special. So let's say you suddenly had an eye infection. She would make up the special water or treatment or salve or whatever to treat your eye.
During the mid-1500s, the majority of Europe's population lived outside of cities and towns. There weren't any physicians or apothecaries to visit, so someone needing treatment would walk up to a mistress's house. But then, something changed the course of history. Within a span of just 90 years, people stopped going to mom to fix their problems. But why?
This is the question, right? So for hundreds of years, you get medication at home from mom. You know how she's making it. You know that it works because she wouldn't give it to you if she didn't know that it worked. You don't have to go out. So if you have a fever or you have a sore foot, you don't go anywhere, and you certainly don't have to pay for it. And then all of a sudden, practically, historically speaking, 90 years is like nothing. You've got everybody going to a perfect stranger for a substance they don't know what it's made of or how it's made. They have to pay for it. You have to leave the house when you have that fever or that sore foot. Why would you do this?
Well, Gevirtz says you do this because advocates of the scientific revolution, including physicians and apothecaries, began to discredit women's healing practices.
It was brilliant. They discredited women and they made themselves seem amazing. Women were what we would now call empirics, which was they had a trial and error method. So if you had a recipe for, say, cough syrup, and it made the person you gave it to sicker, or it just didn't help, you would say, I need something else. And you would ask around, did your sister have something? Did the neighbor over the fence have something? Did that woman in the market have something? And you would ask, and invariably somebody would say, I've got a great cough syrup, or I've got a really good cure for crippling menstrual cramps, or I've got something really good to help a woman expel the afterbirth, or whatever it was.
However, the scientific revolution changed that method of trial and error to one of consensus with the rise of the scientific method.
We will all get together. We will perform some experiments. Everybody will agree on what we saw. We will figure out what that means, and then we will publish that. Women didn't use that method. There was no theory to it. You didn't need a bunch of people to gather around and see if the heart palpitation medicine or the hand tremor medicine or the burn salve really worked. It was really any house to any house, or any family to any family, a mother to daughter to granddaughter, and so on. So the scientific revolution said, no, you need a consensus. You need it to be tested. You need to be able to replicate the findings. Everybody needs to agree on what there is. People need to be able to test it and make sure that it works.
Which is an idea that's led us to various scientific breakthroughs and has saved countless lives. So, Why was this shift so damaging?
I'm a big fan of science, don't get me wrong. I would go for antibiotics any day over a paste of sage. So don't get me wrong. What's interesting about the transition from women's domestic medicine to professional medicine is that it took place before the professional medicine was actually better than domestic medicine. They hyped up science and they said, oh, this way of thinking is so much better than what all those women have been using. It's tested, everybody agrees, it's been very rigorously evaluated. You should really use our stuff. And those women, they're just making it up. And you hear something long enough from people you really trust, eventually you start to believe it and you start paying for something that you don't really need to pay for.
Eventually, as scientific medicine became the norm, women's gardens were relegated for food use only. And as finances entered the picture, a main barrier to healthcare was created that still persists today.
Medication became commodified at a point before it was different and better than what people were getting at home. But what's fascinating about the fact that we now pay for something that we didn't used to pay for is that it's normal to us to have money as a gatekeeper, as access to health, and in some cases to life. So when did that happen? And that happened between the middle of the 17th and the middle of the 18th century.
Gevirtz's book, The Apothecaries' Wife, is available now at bookstores and online. You can learn more about Karen Bloom Gevirtz and all of our guests by visiting our website, radiohealthjournal.org. For more behind the scenes, follow Radio Health Journal on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Our writer-producer this week is Polly Hansen. Our lead producer is Kristen Farah. Our production manager is Jason Dickey. I'm Greg Johnson.